we've been talking about Bruce Arians and Leftwich and how they did a great job, shaping this offense throughout the season. And I know one thing you want to talk about, Brandon, was, if we go to the Kansas City Chiefs, you didn't love the play calling out of Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. So what were some of the issues you had with the play calling on Super Bowl Sunday with the Kansas City Chiefs, who everybody, just assumes is the best offensive team in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say, obviously, Pat Mahomes was running for his life the whole game, and they probably couldn't call any offensive play that would have went forward. But here's the thing in the game of football, when the defensive line is literally getting anything they want on every down, and that's what they were. They were winning the line of scrimmage on every down. You literally have to go deep into your bag of tricks, and Kansas City has a deep bag of tricks. But we didn't see any of that. Anything that they had run throughout the regular season or anything that they had run even earlier in the playoffs, we didn't see. They just turned into such a vanilla offense. I don't even think Tampa Bay really had to play at a high level, but when they did play at a high level, it shut them down completely. They were just kicking field goals. And to stay with Tom Brady, I think we've all seen that. You can't be kicking field goals. You have to be scoring touchdowns to stay with the Tom Brady-led team. But yeah, the play calling I just think was off, and I don't know if the whole situation with Andy Reid's son, and I know that was a topic that we would want to talk about, but if that was really something that was bothering him and it was in his head and he was thinking about it, which I completely understand. I'm not judging him on that, but I just think the play calling was a little off. And I know earlier in the season and actually in past seasons, when the offense wasn't going, Andy Reid would hand off the play calling to somebody else. Because he know that they needed a jump start. And I think that's something that they probably could have done in the Super Bowl, is maybe let Bieniemy call the second half plays, but they didn't. And Andy Reid called the whole game, and I think he called the dud of a game. Like I said, when you have the defensive lineman getting after your quarterback like that, you've got to throw a screen. You've got to have a halfback screen. You got to have a wide receiver screen, a tight end screen. I mean, they love using Travis Kelce with that middle screen and that halfback or that shovel pass, I should say, to Travis Kelce. Didn't see that. We didn't see a reverse to Tyreek Hill or McCole Hardman. You could have ran a reverse pass off of that. I mean, this is the time that you do maybe a flea flicker or hey, bust out the Philly special. We're pretty aware of the Philly special, right? It's time to come up. It's time to come up with something, because Tampa Bay's got you dialed in. And you have to actually come up and, like I said, go to your bag of tricks. And I just don't think Andy Reid did that at all with any of his play calling. Didn't put his positional players in a position to be able to succeed and to win.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you saw Kansas City do in the offseason was draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a phenomenal receiving running back. He was hurt for most of the postseason, came back for the Super Bowl. So you would have thought that this was the time that they would have ran more screens, more passes to the flat, when Mahomes is seeing that rush from the defensive front seven of the Bucs. And the Bucs linebackers are fast, right? The way to combat that is to get them to over pursue. So those reverses, those misdirection plays are the ways that you can kind of break things open. And like you said, we didn't really see a lot of that. And it could have been Tyreek Hill that you could have run those for. Could have been Hardman, like you mentioned. We talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, you can do a lot with Kelce, and we just didn't see that out of the Chiefs. So I think you're right. I think the play calling, like you mentioned, I mean, with what happened with Britt Reid, which is just a whole nother ball of wax, and we hope to God that young girl Ariel makes it. She's in critical condition. It's horrible, and we pray for her, to get back to health. But that had to be on his mind, and there's no way that you can concentrate on a game like that when that happened just 2 days prior to one of your sons who's already had issues in the past. Never mind that he had another son who had some issues and unfortunately is no longer with us. So I think it's one of those things where he had to be distracted. I think the whole team was distracted. But you're right, the play calling originality just wasn't there like it normally is with the Chiefs.
Yeah, like I said, I get the personal situation, and I think people tend to forget that these professional athletes and coaches have personal lives, and it does affect them. And I'm not taking any shots at that, definitely. But I just think their play calling wasn't there. I think he could have handed it off to Bieniemy and maybe got a different play call. Maybe just one play. All they needed was one play to kind of spark their team. Yeah. And I mean, to your point, I mean, and to what we've talked about a couple of times is Le'Veon Bell. I mean, you have Le'Veon Bell on your team too, one of the best receiving running backs of all time, and you don't really use him at all during the playoffs. And we definitely didn't see Clyde Hilaire get used in that Super Bowl either. Obviously, we saw Pat Mahomes running for his life. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's time. That's when it's time to go to the bag of tricks. That's when it's time to bust out some sort of play call. Even, hey, old school hitch and ladder, and let's try something. Let's just try something to be able to spark our offense and to get our ball into the end zone.